This is Dr. Ravi Iyer, and welcome to another edition of Stuck2Strong Boardroom Reflections. I've just come back from the 2.0 conferences at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, and I wanted to share a few insights while they're still fresh. Because what I experienced at the 2.0 conference was not just another conference. With five powerhouse conferences converging once a year under one roof, CXO, founders, health, education, and tech 2.0. This is more than a single event. It's a concentration of global change makers and ideas across disciplines that's hard to replicate anywhere else. It draws attendees from all over the world: Asia, Japan, Europe, Africa, and of course, the United States. If you are a CEO, operator, investor, or building anything navigating growth, complexity, or transformation, this is a conference and a cross-pollinated conversation you do not want to miss out on. This was my first time attending the two-partner conferences, and while I spoke in three of the five events, what lasted with me was the experience of change in the air. It felt like a signal that something fundamental was shifting in how we think about growth, leadership, and performance. Now, on the surface, everything looked exactly like you'd expect: high energy, incredible networking, big ideas, ambitious people. But underneath all of that, there was a different conversation. This was not about scaling faster, it was scaling smarter. Here are six major boardroom insights. Insight number one: the end of growth at all costs. One of the strongest themes across CXO and founder sessions was this: growth by itself is no longer a virtue. In fact, what leaders are realizing, sometimes in the hard way, is that growth doesn't fix problems, it exposes them. If your systems are misaligned, if your culture has cracks, if your execution is not tight, scaling just magnifies all of it. And so the conversation is shifting. It's no longer how fast we can grow, it's what breaks when we do. And that's a very different level of leadership. The new competitive advantage is no longer speed. It's what I call structural stamina, the ability to grow and endure at the same time. Insight number two: clarity is the new growth engine. Another insight that came up again and again in conversations with operators and growth leaders was surprisingly simple. When things stall, deals, executions, teams, it's usually not an effort problem, it's a clarity problem. Lack of clarity in position, lack of clarity in messaging, lack of clarity in what actually needs to get done. And here's the thing: clarity compounds, confusion taxes. The organizations that are winning right now are not necessarily doing more, they're just reducing friction for their customers, for their teams, and frankly, for themselves. Insight number three: integration over isolation. One of the most complex and somewhat difficult discussion I participated in was at Health 2.0, and was a mixed bag that revealed the immense potential of what is possible as well as the amount of work that remained to be needed to be done in sifting the wheat from the chaff. The really positive insights I got were around the intersection of modern medicine and traditional Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, and indigenous practices. But what became clear is that this is not a debate anymore, it's a convergence. We're starting to recognize that centuries of observational wisdom and modern scientific rigor don't compete, they complement. And this insight goes far beyond healthcare. The future of leadership across industries belongs to people and organizations that can integrate different ways of thinking, not isolate them. because real innovation happens at the intersection. However, what became equally evident was the need for critical thinking. Number one, there's an enormous hunger for credible, scientifically proven alternatives to the interventional approaches of traditional Western medicine. Number two, there is a credible need for integrating complex system approaches to the creation of health, vitality, and longevity. Number three, but the current tendency to paint all Western medicine with a top brush and to guilt paint anything exotic as holistic and natural needs to be tempered with rational criticism. Claims of quantum healing and activating chakras to transform the energy circuits and electrical auras within a human being probably needed to have a separate conference devoted to spiritual approaches to the human experience rather than lumping them into the Health 2.0 platform. The disease the- of health and human health versus the disciplines of yoga, meditation, sound and vibrational methodology, aromatherapies, and massage may have a place in the creation of a balanced human experience. But unless people are presenting objective, measurable data, it may be more appropriate for these experiential modalities to have their own event stage. Spirituality 2.0 maybe. Number four, what is emerging is that the herbal and marine biologicals are entering the mainstream of healthcare, as should be. And what is emerging is a real-world clinical data of measurable benefits of complex herbal and marine compounds exerting profound benefits that are upending the traditional Western single molecule business model. My final takeaway on this is that health is at crossroads. The West is merging with the East, and a new dawn of possibilities is emerging for the human condition. It is our responsibility to steer the ship towards the ocean of balanced rational truth and away from the shoals of unprovable wishful fantasy. Insight number four, performance begins with integrity. Now, in the middle of all the frameworks and strategies, one idea stood out because of its simplicity, integrity, and not as a concept but as a practice. Integrity is not something you have, it is something you do over and over again, especially when it is inconvenient. And at the highest levels of leadership, performance is not just about strategy, it's about trust. And in uncertain, fast moving environments, trust becomes your anchor. It is the one thing that stabilizes everything else. Insight number five, the human core of performance. Another powerful thread running through the conference was this idea that high performance, whether in people or in organizations, follows the same principles: adaptability, resilience, and interconnection. We are starting to realize that the way we think about human health, longevity, and recovery applies directly to business. Recovery is not a weakness, it's essential. Alignment is just as important as ambition, and systems thinking beats siloed optimization every time. Leadership in this sense is no longer about control, it's about orchestrating a living system. Insight number six, the power of proximity. And finally, something that no virtual platform can replace: proximity. Some of the most meaningful moments did not happen on the stage. They happened in conversations with me over the coffee between sessions at lunch. That's where alignment happened, where trust began, and that's where real opportunities are created. The true ROI of these gatherings is not the content, it's the connection. My closing reflection: If I had to distill everything from this week into one thought, it would be this: the next era of leadership will not be defined by who grows fastest, but by who builds systems that last. We are moving from an age of expansion to an age of intentional design, from chasing growth to engineering resilience, from performance as output to performance as alignment, and ultimately from building companies to building capability. Because in a world that refuses to slow down, the advantage will go to those who can integrate, align, and sustain, not just accelerate. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next Stuck to Strong Boardroom Reflection.